And drug interdiction for custody started in 1974. The max that was ever interdicted was 10% in any 1 year. That's the max. And
I'd like to talk to you afterwards because I'd like to hear this.
again, I worked for them with CBP, same program, but with motor initiative. Again, the max that was ever stopped is 10%.
Well,
Of immigrants.
I think you also got to look at, we have some technology that we're not using. And I think, you know what? How about let's play with this Predator drone? Let's put this thing on outside our border and see if the Mexican government likes playing with that fire.
They're using it now.
It's
not helping.
It's not helping. It's not shooting. It's not shooting.
But along this line, I want to say, what's your opinion on legalizing drugs so that there isn't this? I know nobody wants it, but this has been going on for 50 years, and it's our people that are buying the drugs, so.
You're absolutely right. It is our people, but in every country where they've now taken that next step, and typically that's Europe, where now they're legalized, and also Mexico. Mexico has it legal. The use of drugs does not decline, it increases. The workforce decreases in capacity. The disease has not declined. It isn't a solution to the malaise itself. And there's another question. So I would not be in favor.
No, I
Just
know
because
no
of the
one is,
ADCs.
but there seems to be this problem that nobody is really wanting to face it. We're a corrupt population
I want to
ourselves.
take it from a different angle. So, you trust them with your IRS money? And you're going to trust them with drugs? Let me tell you something as a healthcare provider. What you're being told is pot from when you were growing up ain't pot anymore. It's not even close to the same kind of drug. And so, you know what? I'm a little tired of Big Brother. I don't know of one thing that Big Brother does well. And we're going to allow them to do that?
The drug war has been going on for umpteen years and we haven't won it, so.
Well, there was an interesting, a fascinating editorial after 9/11 about what's going on in Afghanistan. I don't know if anybody saw it. But what's happening is it actually looks at these houses where they're doing the opium, where it's open opium. And the opium comes, as they're building it, it's been worked in the floor. And the children walk around in their feet. And they absorb it through any skin touch. And now they're finding addicts that are 3 years old, 2 years old. Come on, folks. You know, we can't have this. I deal with it. I see people with drugs that are undergoing drugs. I've seen what meth does. It destroys people. But there's got to be a better solution than regulating it.
What is it?
I believe that it's education. We've never had a proper drug education at the lowest levels of education for kids. And at home. But at home is too late, because most of many, I should say, of the parents are using drugs, that accept drugs. So we've got to start a program, and the only place we can do it now is at school. So you start at first grade and start the anti-drug campaign.
But you got a problem there. And that is that if you start, no, I understand, but you start a program and then you go home and you watch mom and dad do it. And to make meth doesn't take much, okay? And I got to tell you, it's all over the internet.
But, yes, but it's going to take generations to get rid of it.
That brings back
Sex and death. Just like my wife and I used to smoke. We came home and our kids are crying. They were watching TV. We were in Georgia, working the Army. And they turned around and told us, Mom, Dad, we don't want you to die. Quit smoking. So we did eventually. Within a month, we quit smoking. But they were watching TV and they were only 2 and 3. And at that point, it was on TV in Georgia, anti-smoke. Why couldn't it have been anti-drug?
There will be people who will be able to throw off meth for virtuous reasons. I consider that a virtuous reason. Love your children. But this, as we talk about the the difficulties that we face as a country. Most of those difficulties are because we as individuals, multiplied by 300 million, made some really bad choices. Now, how do you keep a country alive with all of these freight trains coming at you? It's enough for us. Now we're afraid, and we're fighting back. We've got our tea parties. We've got these groups. We want to make a difference. But the challenges are enormous. It takes the personal decision of everybody in this room that I'm going to be a better person. I'm going to figure out my life, and I'm going to do better, and I'm going to try to get my children. If I wasn't a good father early on, then I'm going to beg and plead and try to make some ground up and try to change my family, and then work with other people, with all of our different religious faiths and community organizations to try to work together towards these goals. Because if it won't, there's not going to be a president that says, okay, everybody, I'm your greatest friend, and I'm the constitutional scholar, and I know everything, just ask me and I'll tell you. And who's going to touch each of us and make this all change? It comes from each of us, ourselves, our homes, our families, our communities, building upwards. But we have to have the faith that we can do it, otherwise it's done. We are at a point where if we don't exercise that personal faith, that this can be overcome. Pick the challenge, pick the people who, as Paul said, we're our experts, evaluate their expertise, start working together, piece by piece, to get our country back. Otherwise, we will not have a country. History says we can't do it. But that faith of the American people, I think, can come back. I think it can.
I just want to touch real quickly. You did say is that some of these issues don't have a solution. All you can do is take the top layer of that onion so that you can really get to the bottom of that layer. And that's how you have to start looking at drugs. You know, this has happened over a long period of time, and it doesn't get better today, tomorrow. So we have to start unraveling it. Do the things that we can, just like the healthcare bill. You don't throw out the baby with bathwater. There's some good things about our healthcare crime sakes. Why don't you take the small little things that need to be tweaked and see where that goes? And then come back and start tweaking it again. And that's how you have to, I think, look at the drug. Okay? The other thing is personal accountability and personal responsibility. Our forefathers lived with it and they breathed it, they put everything on the line. In our culture today, how much time do we reward? Secondary, third, fourth, fifth. When does an alcoholic recover? When they're on death's bed.
I think along that line, I've been sitting here thinking about a question relative to the progressive movement and the incrementalism that has gotten us into this condition, not only at the federal level, the state level, and everything else, to where we have nearly half of our population not paying taxes and living on an entitlement mindset. The population is upset. They want instant answers, which aren't going to probably happen. But is it in your mindset to work towards taking us back to a capitalistic society at the federal level so that individual responsibility will start to take care of what these issues are at the base level?
And because after almost a year now, 7 or 8 months, we kind of know how we feel about these issues and are grateful for the question.
You guys need to run together.
Yeah, we understand. And I'm grateful to have a good man like Paul in this race and others. The idea, as a legislator, it dawned on me early on that the majority of the expenditures of state government are to pave the way to ease or remove the consequences of the personal decisions of our people. If they had become drug addicted, we were the ones who would pay for the counseling and the rehab and all that. If there was pregnancy involved, we would be the ones who would take care of the child. The boy walks free and he just goes. He's out sowing and sowing his oats. The young lady typically ends up in poverty. But who's going to pay the bills? Who's going to pay for the doctor? Who's going to pay for access? 60%